Hola a todos, bienvenidos. Mi nombre es Carla Plasencia y en nombre de The Student World les doy la bienvenida a esta live session Estudia Medicina en Italia, Descubre oportunidades. Si pueden confirmarme en el chat que me pueden ver y escuchar, se los agradecería muchísimo. Súper, perfecto. Ok, muchísimas gracias, Yavi. Muchas gracias a todos. Bueno, pues bienvenidos. Muchísimas gracias por conectarse, por regalarnos un ratito de su tarde. Espero que disfruten muchísimo esta live session con Università Cattolica. Van a ver que es una escuela increíble, les va a encantar. De verdad, tienen muchísimas oportunidades para gente de Latinoamérica. Igual si nos pueden contar en el chat desde dónde nos visitan, de qué país son ustedes. Yo estoy en México, Colombia, Perú, Colombia, Chile, súper, muchísima gente, perfecto, estamos muy emocionadas de tenerlos aquí. Y bueno, ahora sí les voy a presentar a nuestra representante del día de hoy. Ella es Elizabeth. Elizabeth, thank you so much for being here today with us.
Muchas gracias. Todos país donde quiero ir. I will not try to speak too much Spanish since I am not very good at speaking Spanish, but I'm very happy to be in a community of Spanish speakers. And I was actually saying earlier that I'm trying really hard to learn. Quiero aprender. And so if you feel like putting some questions in the chat in Spanish, that will make us all quite happy later when we have questions and answers. I'm Elizabeth, and I am coming to speak to you from Rome. Actually, I am an American citizen who has been living in Italy for the past 12 years. I really enjoy sharing my experience and also sharing information about the Italian education system and Università Cattolica, obviously, with students all over the world, because I truly believe that Italy is a context where you have so much to gain by coming here, not only for the academic excellence that you will find, but also for the cultural experience. And I will have to say that I really enjoy speaking to students from the southern part of the Americas, because I do think that the culture is more similar in some ways. Let's say you might feel a little bit more at home for certain reasons, and many of the obstacles that other students find when they come from, let's say, the United States, Canada, some places in Northern Europe. Usually my students that are coming from South America or in the Latin America regions, they don't have to struggle as much to understand. So welcome to our webinar, and hopefully you will feel at home with me today, and you will enjoy the information that I have to share with you so that you can choose to apply to Università Cattolica at the end of this presentation. I'm going to start now by sharing my PowerPoint presentation with you. So, like I said before, I am coming to you from Rome today. I'm here in Italy. I am a representative of Università Cattolica's Faculty of Medicine and Surgery. My role is to help any students who are interested in applying for programs on our Rome campus, international students specifically, and students who hold international academic experience. So when they come to Università Cattolica out of high school or university, if they're going to a master's program, if they have studied outside of the Italian system, then they are someone I would be speaking to about the opportunities that we have. Today, I'm going to review more in detail our medicine and surgery program that is taught entirely in English, and I will explain to you a little bit about how our university approaches the study of medicine, why, it's a good idea to consider studying medicine in Italy, and I will discuss with you our application procedures and entry requirements so that you can understand how to apply, what to prepare, and how to qualify for our program. So let's get started by talking about the larger context to begin. Why should you study medicine in Italy? I hope that you're interested in coming to Italy, or you would maybe not be watching the webinar presentation right now. But I think that it's no secret that Italy is a really nice destination to visit for vacation, for tourism, for food, fashion. Italy has many, let's say, stereotypical reasons why people would like to come here. But I like to share with our prospective students the fact that Italy is actually also a leader in healthcare and public health policy. So I'm not so sure how many people are really aware of that. We've gotten a little bit of exposure with the pandemic, but sometimes the media tends to twist these things in different ways. So I like to highlight the fact that Italy is actually a country that has been ranked one of the healthiest countries in the world by Bloomberg's Global Health Index. In 2017, we were number 1. And in most of the last 4 or 5 rankings, we've always been in the top 3 healthiest countries in the world by Bloomberg. We also rank pretty high on the global health indexes by the World Health Organization and other entities that assess the state of public health care and all of the various things that go into what would make a country healthy. So why is this significant to you if you're thinking about studying medicine here? It's interesting because it means, first of all, that we have top-notch medical services, because one of the reasons that we can rank so high is because we have we are giving care to more patients than many other countries. Italy has a public health system that guarantees access to everyone. So no matter what your status is, no matter where you come from, no matter whether you're visiting or you're a permanent resident, if you have an emergency and you need to get healthcare, in the emergency room, they will see you. This is something that you can't really necessarily find anywhere, and we are very proud of this fact. So in order to provide these services, we obviously need medical professionals. We need doctors, and we need nurses, and we need staff in our hospitals. So the interesting thing is that the government does invest. It's a priority, and the community respects the medical profession here. It's something that people do take use of, they do understand, and it's just a regular part of the everyday lifestyle to know that you have to refer to your doctor for certain reasons, for specialists for others. So this is something that I think is really worth considering, because it's a well-established situation, and that means that you will be coming to a place that not only has been valuing healthcare processes, practices, research, innovation in the field for many years, but we're leading because that we've been committed to also learning as we go and not just sticking to the same old thing. If we need to address something, we try to do that. So we have also been ranked the most efficient healthcare system in Europe. And that is really not an easy feat. We have been able to serve more patients for less money. We have been able to make our budget work for us in a way that other healthcare systems have not. And I'm not going to lie, on the outside walking in, especially as an American, it certainly wouldn't appear that the healthcare system is more efficient than some other contexts. So I like to highlight it here because that this is something that really has been proven. It's an award that we have been given because that the analyses have shown that we are capable of putting in action a healthcare system and healthcare facilities with medical professionals, that quality of care that succeeds other areas in Europe, in our region. So we're very proud of this. Another reason I think that it's great to come to Italy is because you get all of this package for an affordable cost, especially compared to universities that are in the same global rankings as us that I'll talk to you about in a little while. But our tuition fees are not nearly as much as many of our competitors. Another thing that I think is important to consider is the length and the duration and the style of our program. I'll probably get into a little bit more detail about our curriculum later, but I do think that it's really lovely for students who are 100% sure that they know they want to study medicine at any phase of your academic career, really. If you've already started university, that's fine. But if you're just coming out of high school, this is a really nice opportunity because you don't have to go through any sort of undergraduate program. You don't have to reapply at any time. You're going to start medical studies and go into the field that you're most interested in right away. And this is something that I think is definitely worth it for people who have been dreaming of being a doctor for many years, and they know that's exactly what they want to do. You're not going to have to waste your time studying anything else in the meantime. We're going to get you right into the classes that you're most interested in from day one. Finally, we would really love for you to come to Italy because we do need more doctors. Like I said in the beginning, we're interested in investing in this system. The system that we have has been working, and we do not want it to fall apart. We do recognize that we are going to need more qualified healthcare professionals, doctors, and experienced researchers in the field to keep this going. And so we would love to have some international students who are not only interested in coming to take advantage of the academic excellence that we have to offer, but also who might be interested in staying and starting their professional career right here when they're finished. So I will tell you that it is not terribly hard to stay in Italy after you graduate, and I think that is a great reason to choose Italy if you're interested in going somewhere that opens more opportunities for you. We will never be sad if you want to go back home after you're done studying, but it's nice to have 2 or 3 or 4 options, and we would be really happy to have you stay. So now that you know why to study in Italy, I would like to talk a tiny bit about the location where our university is inside of that country. Rome is an excellent place to study, live, I would say. Now, I'm not going to lie, it has plenty of complications and there's a lot of confusion for me, but that's why I said I usually like my Latin American, South American students because they're really good at getting through all of the late buses and all of the confusion that takes place on the street. But why would you want to come and study in Rome? Well, I think some of these pictures might catch your eye if you're interested in the big city. But it's very quaint as well. It's an environment that's a European capital. It's the capital of Italy. It's the center of Europe. And yet you really do have kind of a small town feel in many places. You walk down the street, and if you've been living in the neighborhood for a while, you're going to know the people that are working in the coffee shops nearby. You're going to know the person who checks you out at the grocery store. It's really quite welcoming as an environment overall in a cultural sense. And I also think that the nice thing about Rome is that it is a very bustling, large metropolitan city, but it's very, very green. So if you're looking for a place to escape after you're done, when you're off campus, when you need to take a break from your studies, it's a beautiful city to be a part of, and there are many natural parks. And then just right 30-40 minutes away, you can get to the beach. Not too far, you can get to some mountains. So honestly, if you want to be in a place where you have all sorts of opportunities for anything extracurricular outside of your studies, Italy and Rome is definitely a good place to be. You're right in the center, so you can travel all over without too much trouble. Another thing that I like to highlight about Rome is that as I was talking about the public health services and our recognitions and the importance of coming to a context where healthcare is sort of at the core of the cultural value set, Rome is the capital, so that's where all of our ministries are located. It's where the governing bodies are located, and it's also where the United Nations have several offices. So if you are at all interested in expanding your career beyond just the hospital, the clinical, and the practical aspects of becoming a doctor, and you're interested in global health policy or global health issues, concerns, research, maybe even expanding healthcare into regions where they don't have the same type of access, or just looking at different ways of approaching medicine. In Rome, you have a number of different organizations that often need clinical expertise. They're interested in collaborating with medical professionals, and there are often a lot of global conferences and meetings that take place in Rome because it's a city that tends to attract people from all over the world. So it is a center place also for developing international and global networking opportunities. So I really do like to point this out because it's something that could benefit you in the future if you're interested in looking into some of these type of opportunities. So keep your eye out. And finally, of course, I like to mention the fact that it's full of history. So if you enjoy architecture, history, food, fashion, Rome is definitely a wonderful location to come to. So now that we know why to study in Italy, why to come to Rome, why would you want to come to Università Cattolica? I mentioned before that we have a pretty nice ranking, and we are in the top 150 by QS World Rankings. And today I was actually speaking to a couple of people, and in these new rankings that just came out, I believe we are actually number 149 or something. It's hard because QS Rankings does these ranges, but you can see we're right there in the top 150. And this is something really, 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 really important to think about. Considering the number of medical universities there are around the world, to be in the top 150 is a great achievement for us. And there are many reasons that we have achieved not only this ranking, but also the recognition of our name in the global health community, because that we are putting out research regularly, and our professors, our faculty members, are leaders in the field. When the global pandemic hit, some of our professors were actually called upon by the ministry here in Italy to give advice about how to handle the COVID-19 crisis, how to handle putting up new facilities around Italy, how to handle the control of the infection and the spread of the virus. And these professors from Cattolica that were called upon by our ministry actually have then confronted with leaders of countries all over the world as well. So many of the practices that they were putting in place here were then replicated and being seen by other healthcare professionals around the world. So our faculty and our quality of teaching and expertise is definitely a really good reason to come to Cattolica. On that topic, I also like to mention a little bit about the curriculum, because Italy, as I was saying before, has a long-standing tradition of excellence in the medical field and in the research fields. This is something that we were not, looking to change. When we opened our English taught program, we had an objective of internationalizing our curriculum and creating a more intercultural environment, international community on our campus. So we had two objectives. One, look around the world and see what's being done differently. How can we improve our teaching methods by learning from others? And two, how can we attract international students to our campus? So the choice to use the English language was fairly convenient, because it seems that there are more English speakers as a second language out there than there are Italian speakers, and there were many people interested in studying in English. Then we had the idea about the curriculum. So our faculty that teaches the English taught program is actually the same faculty that teaches the Italian taught program. They're not all the same professors on each program, but we didn't necessarily hire new faculty or bring people in or native English speakers. Our goal was to use the same expertise that we have and to carry on the tradition of excellence that was proven with our graduates and our rankings that we also achieved through our Italian top program, into a community of international students. So we needed to blend the models. What we are doing now is, you will see in the Italian top program, it is a lot of theory. There's a lot of oral examinations. You're going to get this still in the English top program. You're going to be in an environment where the professor is expert and they're sharing their knowledge with you, and you must absorb this information. You will have to navigate the unknown when the exam time comes, and they might ask you questions that you didn't think about that they would ask you before. So you really have to be an expert of what they've done in the classroom and be attentive and listen and absorb, and then study it on your own and try to anticipate what's going to happen, and be examined orally in some contexts in some of the classes, because this is an essential skill that will help you in the future when you need to articulate something that's happening in your professional career on the spot without preparation, and you just need to know, okay, this is the diagnosis I'm making, this is the treatment that I'm interested in doing, these are the processes that I had to face in order to come to this analysis, and now I have to tell someone very quickly, very concisely, exactly what, why, and how. And these are things that we're going to teach you at Cattolica how to do, this mental flexibility, and to train you to be able to think on your feet and articulate what you know. But something that we wanted to add in and sort of, let's say, sway from the very traditional methods that we use that focus on really, really, really pounding in the theoretical and the scientific based knowledge for you, is to also add some problem-based learning skills. So our problem-based teaching methods are going to also be complementing some of the other styles of learning and teaching that we have going on in the classroom on our campus. And so this means that you're going to be finding ways to actually apply the knowledge and put it in practice right away, even from the first couple of years in the classroom, in the laboratory. So looking at case studies, talking with your classmates in teams to try to solve problems. This is something that we wanted to integrate into the curriculum. So you should have also some written examinations and some areas of the program where you will have to focus on critical analysis and critical thinking skills. So you're getting these two balance, kind of the best of the both worlds, I would say. Traditional Italian style academics that we have been proud of since the start of the first university in Europe, and some new, more problem-based learning, kind of innovative ways, looking at things, teamwork, bringing in even some film and some, cultural and social processes into this curriculum. This is a great reason to come to Cattolica as well. One of the reasons we were able to be a little bit more creative with the curriculum is also because we are a private university. So I mention this here because Italy is a very public institution context, and you might know about the public institutions here, and they are also, very well esteemed. Many of our public universities have great rankings, but sometimes being a private university is helpful for the international student population. And one of the reasons that we like to mention this to you now is because we also want to be very clear that we do not use the IMAT, which if you're looking at studying medicine in Italy, you're probably familiar with. If you don't know about it, that's fine. You can look it up later. But the reason that this is important for me to mention as kind of a positive for Cattolica is because the IMAT takes place very late for international students, and we wanted to put our own entrance exam in place so that we can do it earlier in the year. Doing the entrance exam earlier in the year means that our international students who need to get a student visa have time to do that. So this is something that I like to put out there and kind of just explain why being a private institution can be beneficial. There are certain things that we can do differently that might help to make the international experience a little bit easier than a public institution might be able to do. And another thing that falls into that theme is our class size. So we have 30 students from the European Union, and I'll talk about this when I'm discussing the entrance exam, but if you're a European citizen, then you'll be considered part of the EU contingent, and 50 spots for non-EU students. So that means a total of 80 students in each year. We accept 80 students a year to this program, and that I think is a really nice number because it's not too small, so you're not stuck in a community where you're always seeing the same people, talking to the same people, working with the same people, but at the same time, you're not going to be lost in a lecture hall of 300, 400 students. And you do get to see your teachers, your professors, you will get to work with your classmates, you will get to know each other. And this is something that I think is really important, not only for studying purposes as a student and building this network as a peer who have other intercultural experiences, peers to rely on, people to learn from, to create knowledge with, to look at problems from one way and a different way and kind of have this added advantage in the classroom, but also for the future, because you're able to really get to know more people on campus. And like I said, it's not too small, but at the same time, it's small enough that you really can kind of interact with many people if you're going to go out there and try to take advantage of it. So this is a professional network that you're building already when you're a student. And then as you leave, you will have these relationships that you can lean on moving on in the rest of your life. Finally, as a private institution and just Cattolica mentality in general, our university is really happy to try to offer services for international students. We try to rise above and beyond when we are talking about services to international students because we do understand two things. First of all, we want you to be able to be comfortable. We know that people are coming from different backgrounds, from different academic systems, from different ways of understanding the world around them, and just from different ways of navigating and speaking in different languages. So when you first arrive on campus and when you're going through the process of getting to us, it's really important that you have a community of people who are aware that this is not necessarily an easy automatic process. So Università Cattolica has a staff and a set of people who are dedicated to trying to make sure that at least you know that you have a place to go to ask questions, you know that you have people to reach out to if you're feeling a little lost in the beginning. And then our second philosophy on this is that you know that we're going to give you the tools that you need. We are going to give you the information that you need in order to manage these things on your own in the future. So we are not talking about holding your hand through your entire education. We're not going to register you for an exam, but we will sign on and try to figure out how to help you get access to the right person or the right office or the right program in order to get what you need done. So we're going to try to show you the way and then let you go on it and get there. So I think this is something that you really want to consider when you're looking at international schools. Just to continue on our theme a little bit about services, we do have a bunch of student services available, not only for international students, but for all of our students. And this is, like I said, important for you in order to be able to succeed and excel in the context when you come to study. I like to highlight just a couple of them here because obviously if I went into detail about each little thing that's on this slide, then we would be here for quite a while. But two that I think are really important to keep in mind are the language support services and your accommodations. So language support services are something that we offer for all students. So you can go and you can sign up to learn a different language. And this is great because I'm sure that you will want to come and learn Italian when you arrive, but you can also learn another language while you're with us if you're interested. Now, I think that it's also important to mention that we do have Italian courses in our curriculum. So I like to let everyone know that we understand that it takes time to learn a language. We're not asking you to know English when you, to know Italian when you come, because we are teaching you in English. But obviously, you're going to need to learn Italian for two reasons. One, because that you're going to be living in a context that's full of Italian speakers, and you will need it to navigate your day-to-day life. You will also need it to navigate on the university, so don't be surprised when you arrive. We do have English-speaking professionals in all of the key offices, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're always available. So you will find yourself going around campus and knowing that you're in a context where people speak Italian most of the time. So this is something you will need just for yourself, for your own getting around, and for your life management skills. But then it will become essential and really critical for you to know the Italian language and understand it when you get into the clinical aspects and the clinical phase of our program, because you're going to go to the university hospital and you're going to be seeing real patients, real situations, working with nurses and other students who might not be part of the English talk program, resident doctors, and all sorts of professionals inside the hospital who may or may not be able to communicate in English, and who will probably communicate primarily in Italian with each other. So why am I talking about that now with the student services? Well, because it's integrated a little bit in our curriculum, and I think that is something you want to know, because maybe it's not easy to fit that in. We only offer it 2 times, first year and third year, because the curriculum for a medical student is so heavy. So how can you fit in language learning? But Università Cattolica did not want to sacrifice this. We did set aside 2 dedicated spaces for our students, because that we know that that's essential to all of your success. So this is why I highlight it here. I'm not sure that all institutions do make special dedicated time in the curriculum for learning the language. And so I think this is something important to know. Also, like I said, the accommodations is something I like to highlight right now, because that accommodations are obviously essential for you to be able to succeed as a student, but they're also really important for getting a student visa. So this is one of those kind of above and beyond, I think, Cattolica services that maybe you can't necessarily get the same everywhere. We know how hard it can be to get a student visa, so we have thought about these processes in advance, and our accommodation services does give you all the documents that you need. And we did set up a special application process just for our medicine and surgery students, so that you can apply in advance and that you can be offered an opportunity if you're interested. You're not required, but if you want to, you do have this service available to you. So the last thing that I'm going to talk about as far as the student services goes are the International Student Center and the orientation week, because like I said before, what we're trying to do is to give you access to places where you can get the information that you need in order to be able to manage your academic career independently. And this is an important philosophy to keep in mind. We are not going to try to make sure that everything is super easy and super fast. And I think that's even an advantage. Being an American citizen, as someone who's come from a background where the customer is always right, and then at some point students became customers and everyone's trying to please everyone else, I can tell you that it's very pleasant and I've enjoyed the atmosphere. But coming to Italy, I have seen how important it is to gain the skills necessary to do many things on your own, because once you stop going to an environment where you always have somebody to rely on, you have to do it on your own. So Università Cattolica is, like I said before with the curriculum, what we're looking for is kind of the best of both worlds. So we're trying to make sure that you have a place to go to ask the questions, then you will go and process the information on your own. So orientation week is dedicated to explaining all those services, to welcoming you to campus, to giving you the knowledge that you need in order to start moving on independently. And then our International Student Center on the Rome campus is really unique because it's available to you in the hospital, which is not far at all from our academic buildings. But once you get into the clinical phase of the program, so 3 years are very academic, theoretical, basic scientific knowledge that you're going to learn in the classroom, examinations, very academic oriented. And then the next 3 years are going to be in the hospital, and you will still have academic courses and lectures, but you will do a lot of clinical rotations and you will do a lot of practical activities in the university hospital. And so having an international center there dedicated inside the hospital where you can go if you need to in between your activities is something that I think is really unique to Cattolica, and just kind of trying to go above and beyond to make things a tiny bit easier. Like I said, I always tell students that we can't answer every question, but we will try to make sure we get you in touch with someone who has the answer. So you will have these many little helps along the way as you go at Cattolica, and I think that this is something that hopefully will make the studying and the academics and the clinical aspects of everything just a little bit more user-friendly, let's say. So the final most important reason I think that Cattolica is the place for you to study medicine is because of our university hospital. So our academics are wonderful, and we have a very, very innovative curriculum, and that is fabulous. But the reason that we have such an innovative curriculum and this wonderful academic teaching is because that we have the professionals who are working in the hospital. Your professors are the leaders in their field. They are not just academics. They are not just teaching faculty. They are practicing doctors, and they are researchers, and they are clinical experts. So they're working in the hospital too. And you have access to one of the best hospitals in Europe. We have been ranked the first in Italy by US Newsweek. That is not an easy ranking to achieve. And we also have been highlighted in many publications recently for the innovative approach to nursing care and the managerial style we're using, the coordination, the team effort that is going on in the hospital as far as professional care is concerned. And this is something that's very interesting to highlight as well, because you're talking about going to study medicine and you're going to learn wherever you go. We're going to teach you the basic scientific knowledge that you need. You're going to be given access to clinical experiences. They're going to show you how you're going to learn. But the environment, the working environment, the professional environment, and the real life experience is happening in our hospital, and it's happening in a way that other people around the world in our field are taking note of. And so the managerial aspects of the hospital are worth looking at. The relationship between the doctors and nurses, fundamental to success in healthcare practices, and we are leading in those areas. We are also really, really proud of the fact that we are very innovative as technologically, one of the few hospitals in Italy that has moved into the digital era as far as clinical records are concerned. And we're using also a lot of technology in our research processes, in some of our operating hospital in Italy by US Newsweek. Another thing that we are definitely excellent in is research. And I think this is something that you want to take into consideration, because as you're studying, you're going to have to choose a career path eventually. You're going to have to choose an area of study. And we know that research is essential to advancing the healthcare field. So we are doing and participating in and asking for grants to continue research every single day in every single department of the hospital. And our professors are talking, publishing, sharing their knowledge through the global research communities. So this is something you will be able to see, participate in, maybe help with. This is an area that I think you really want to know about. And we are also really proud of the fact that our hospital is quite aesthetically pleasing and clean, at least on the inside. I'm not a huge fan of how it looks on the outside, but we'll keep that to ourselves today. However, I do like to share a really fun fact about the architecture of our hospital. Many hospitals in Italy, you might not know, but they were actually designed to have separate wards that are physically separated buildings. So the neurological ward is in one place, and then there's another building for pediatrics, and there's another building for gynecology and obstetrics. So this is something that I think is kind of fun just to share, not necessarily making us a leader in the field or anything, but if it rains, you don't have to go outside, because Policlinico Gemelli was actually built with the idea of having one unified building where you can get from anywhere inside the hospital without having to go outside. Now, there are a few different buildings. It has grown and expanded, but most of the time you can even get to campus. So from your academic classes, walk through a bridge that takes you over to the hospital and be inside the hospital. It's usually sunny in Rome, but if it's not, you don't have to get out. So I just like to share that fun little fact when we're talking about Policlinico Gemelli. So how much does all of this cost? I told you before that I think that our tuition fees are very reasonable. And for non-EU students, people with a non-EU earned income, it's a flat rate of $15,800 a year. So you're going to be able to have access to all of these hospital services, the clinical field. Usually, there shouldn't be increases or changes, but just keep in mind that this is based on the most recent academic year. And so every once in a while, we do have different increases or decreases. But usually once you get started with the program, you're going to go through most of the time without paying necessarily any unexpected, crazy hidden fees. So this is really nice because like I said, you're getting access to all of this hospital activity, clinical practice, all of the elements that are going into your academic career and your scientific knowledge is coming to you for $15,800 a year maximum, really. There are two different tuition fees you can see on the screen, because we do have an income-based tuition fee offer for people who have an income earned within the European Union. So in that end, the maximum you're going to pay is $16,000 a year. We do ask students to be prepared to pay the full fee. Scholarships are available that you can see through our university partner called Educat. However, they do not really open applications for scholarship at a very convenient time. And the disbursement of funds happens very late in the year. So you usually have to pay almost your whole full year of tuition before you would receive the scholarship money. And so we don't want anyone to be uncomfortable or be waiting for that. And then this adds an extra strain on them, because anything that takes you away from the studying, it makes it harder for you to be able to complete your program on time. So for us, both for your own success, but also because that if you are a non-EU student and you need to get a visa, it's really important that you're able to demonstrate that you can support yourself and that you have the economic means to pay your tuition and to pay your cost of living. Rome is a very economically friendly city, I think, for all that it has to offer. It's difficult to find a city in the EU like Rome, a capital city, that you can live in for $10,000 to $12,000 a year. But this is really what we typically recommend. Now, if you're planning on going shopping on Via Condotti, where they sell all the designer handbags and jewelry and fashion, maybe you're going to need to bring a little bit more, but that's up to you. If you want to live modestly here, it's not too hard. And I can tell you that you can eat very well for not too much, which is usually very important for our students. So you can find plenty of good food at a decent price. Total, like $25,000, a little bit more a year. Not too bad for everything that you're going to find at Cattolica. To wrap up, I wanted to give you a sort of roundup. So all of this we've been discussing Università Cattolica and the medical field specifically, but I thought that it was important to know a few figures about our university in general, because when you come to study medicine on the Rome campus, you're going to be in an environment that is dedicated specifically to the field of medicine and healthcare. So this is nice because that you're going to be in a community of people that have similar interests. You're going to be able to be around students that are all studying something that then you will probably interact with again in the future. You have cross-disciplinary opportunities, but mostly dedicated, like I said, into your field and your area of interest. However, that doesn't mean that you're not part of a larger community. So again, you're getting some benefits by coming to Cattolica that are a bit different than many other contexts, because we have a whole total of 12 schools. We're teaching 12 different academic disciplines and many courses underneath those various schools. We have 5 campuses across Italy. So each of the way Cattolica has designed their programming is that they have each of their campuses with the area of expertise, and it's located in a region that is appropriate for that area of expertise. So this is something unique to us in many ways. Like I said, medicine, healthcare in Rome. Why? Because it's the center of the country. When we opened the Faculty of Medicine, Università Cattolica had a goal to create a teaching hospital to serve the community. So being in the central part of Rome allows for the population from both the north and the south to come to us for services. And we are leading in clinical treatments for oncology and oncological care. So that's just sort of an example of the fact that it is working. People are coming to us. They're looking for us. They are traveling in order to be cared for at our university hospital. And so we're giving back to the community, and we established the Faculty of Medicine in Rome. We have our economics and our management courses taking place in Milan, which is the finance capital of Italy. And we have other courses in some other campuses nearby that are teaching agriculture, food production management, fashion design is also in Milan, obviously. So why am I talking about these other things? Because I think that it's really great for you to know that you're a part of a larger environment, you're part of a larger community, and you're part of a larger network when you come to Cattolica. We can see that this is becoming more and more and more and more important as we move on and the world becomes globalized and everyone is sort of interconnected. And I really don't think anybody wants to keep talking about the COVID-19 pandemic, but it's a perfect example of why being a part of a larger community or having access to a university that has a larger community is essential for success moving on. Because when the pandemic hit, what happened? Everyone had to converge in order to understand how to control the spread of the virus. So people who were working in food production needed to understand how to contain the virus, how to avoid contamination, how to ensure that they were able to operate, export, do their business without creating or contributing to the spread of COVID-19 virus. Political leaders needed to get together. Our international relations community on Università Cattolica campus, many of our graduates are actually leading ministry. They're out there in the decision-making areas. So they had to come together to understand how to manage the public health services, how to manage the community, how to manage the lockdowns, all of these things. And then, of course, they all had to speak to the medical professionals who are the experts in this area. And finally, the economists, really important because our economy is taking a hit. So these are things that we have Cattolica graduates actually participating or researching. Some of our professors from the Milan campus, for example, they're all producing research. They're all experts in these fields as well. So you're part of a larger community that later on in life, if you need that, you have access to, and you will be able to say, I graduated from Cattolica. Let me see if I can reach out to somebody else who graduated from Cattolica. And this is something I think is essential nowadays. You want to be able to pull on and draw from other people's fields, other people's knowledge, and other academic research. Also, it's great to know that we have a huge international community because we have many, many partner institutions and many partner universities, 580 universities worldwide that we have established current partnerships with, but that doesn't include all of the research or the projects, the EU initiatives that sometimes we take part in. That happens a lot on our Rome campus especially. So that number is really much higher if you talk about just the one-off or the here and there projects. We are definitely a global institution. And this brings me to our slide about study abroad, because it is great to come study in Italy for so many reasons, but of course you also want to be able to have opportunities to study elsewhere while you're a student at Cattolica, and this is something that we do very well at Cattolica. On the Rome campus, we have 2 staff members dedicated specifically to helping for exchange programs, and we know that it's really hard for medical students to find an opportunity within their curriculum to go abroad. So these staff members have thought of some very creative ways to fit the exchange program into your 6 years of study if you don't want to do just the typical Erasmus exchange that's available through the EU network, where you can go for a semester or a year to take your classes. We also have language courses available. The things that are really popular for our medical students are clinical research and our international volunteering and your thesis abroad. These are programs that we've developed very carefully for our international students and our domestic students as well, with the idea that this can fit into your curriculum without taking away from the academic experience that you're getting. Because like I said, why come to Cattolica for the hospital? Then do you want to leave the years that you're in the hospital? Many of our students feel like, well, I'm going to miss something. So we've developed some of these programs that really fit in quite well without you having to lose too much from your academic experience at Cattolica. And it's also something that you want to keep in mind now, because that many of you might want to stay in Italy, and you will have the opportunity to stay in Italy when you're finished. Your degree will be valid in Italy and all over Europe automatically. And you will be, of course, able to practice medicine in Italy. But maybe you wanted to go somewhere else when you're done. Maybe you already know, I'm going to go back home. Maybe you already know, I want to go to Norway. I don't know. You decided this is your dream. Italy, then Norway. If you're planning on going somewhere else, you definitely want to take a look at what their requirements are, what the community is like, and how they might have some other expectations. So having the chance to be able to do some study or research or clinical activity in another country is also helpful to the people who know that they might want to practice medicine somewhere else, because sometimes those countries do have requirements that you had to have done some part of your study maybe in that context. So we're trying really hard to help make sure that you're able to succeed when you're here, to stay in Italy after, but we also know that you might want to go somewhere else. So we want to give you the exchange opportunities and the chance to also get some experience abroad while you're studying for your degree with Cattolica. So now that everybody, I'm sure, is just dying to apply, let me tell you exactly how you can apply for our program and what the expectations are as far as entry requirements are concerned. So the first thing that you want to take into consideration if you're ready to apply is that the most important criteria we have for admission is our entrance exam. So it's not our application that's the scary thing. We don't ask you for some essay or a crazy number of points on your final diploma GPA. We don't need to see necessarily that you've been a perfect student your entire life. We're evaluating everybody on the exact same criteria, and we want to give anyone who's really interested and who is qualified a chance to take our entrance exam. So if you want to apply, don't be nervous or scared. You can talk to us about the application process, and we will help you understand if you can or cannot take the entrance exam. You can see that years of schooling is listed as a number one concern, because that is something very important to the Ministry of Education in Italy. And we need a minimum of 12 years of pre-university education. So please keep that in mind, because that I know that sometimes there's not always 12 years of schooling pre-university. You want to double check and make sure that your degree from high school qualifies. And we are looking at secondary schooling. We're not going to necessarily be looking at a university experience unless you need to. So it's easier for us to give an example of, let's say, the United Kingdom degree, high school, when they finish, they need to have some integrated courses that aren't necessarily followed by all students. And if that student doesn't have those courses, then we might be able to substitute with the university experience. But if you've gone to a university, we do ask you to please put that information on your application. But keep in mind that what we're really interested in for the most part is to see where, how, and when you graduated high school. So IB diploma is written here because this is just the minimum score. The IB, if you're not familiar with it, it's an international baccalaureate diploma. It's a very common diploma, so we've thrown it up there just to show that you need to have a valid high school diploma. It needs to be recognized in your home country or by an awarding body that Italy also acknowledges as being valid for admission to a university. If you have any questions about that, if you don't know if your curriculum is valid or not, you just have to write to our admissions office and they will tell you. They're not going to judge you and say, oh, no, you can't apply. They will let you know even how to integrate, if you need to integrate something to make yourself eligible. So the other thing that's really important to know is that you will have to show us an English language certificate for enrollment. You do not need to get the English language certificate ready for your application, but you do need to be ready to give that English language certificate as early as April when we call for enrollment. So like I said, though, the main thing, the number one concern you want is to be able to get a high score on our entrance exam. And the reason is because in Italy, everyone is allowed to have the right to study at a university level. And we do want to give everyone a chance to study medicine, but we need to evaluate you on the same baseline. So we know if you're coming from Mexico, you're coming from Colombia, you're coming from the United States, or people are coming from France, no matter what type of academic system they did, everyone is taking the same exam and they're going to be judged on the same expectations. So you want to actually apply early for us, because we're going to give you an online test simulator that you can study with. And that is going to be the best way for you to prepare for the exam. And that way you can score as high as you can score in order to be offered a position to enroll on our program. You can see here the timeline. Pretty important to know that the closure of the applications is on March 18th, but I would really recommend that you apply as soon as you can so that you can get that test simulator and study. Our entrance exam is going to be held on April 6th this year. If you're a non-EU student, you will take the exam on April 6th and you will take it from home using online proctoring system. Our EU students are going to be asked to take the exam at a designated test center, and we have test center all over the world, so you can choose a test center. If you hold an EU passport, you can choose a test center when you apply online. You'll see the list and you can try to pick one. Hopefully there's one very convenient for you that's not too far away. Since we're holding that in person for the EU students, we do have 2 dates set aside because that it's difficult for us with all the COVID regulations in different places to be able to manage that test in just 1 day. So there might be, you might be called for the 6th or the 7th. And the reason that we have these 2 candidate pools, as we call it, contingents, we have many different ways of saying this, but the reason we've separated the students based on their nationality is because that our Italian top program is really open only to EU citizens. So this program is special for us because it allowed us a chance to invite the non-EU students to our program. So we do have 2 criteria. If you're an EU, you're competing with the EU citizen. If you're non-EU living abroad, then you're competing with only non-EU citizens. And then you will be offered, there are 50 spaces for non-EU and there are 30 for the EU students. So what happens is that you take the entrance exam. Once we publish the scores on April 12th, you will see where you stand, and we will call the top 50 students, the ones who scored the highest on the test, and say, hey, do you want to enroll? If somebody in that group says, no, thank you, we'll move down to 51 and we keep on going until we can fill the seats. So 1 year, all of the top scorers accepted, but that's only happened once since I've been at Cattolica. So when people ask me, what are my chances of getting in? Can you tell me your acceptance rate? It's really hard to predict because a lot of it depends on the competition that's around you and what the people decide to do who have scored higher than you. So this is why I'm a huge advocate of just applying early and studying really hard for the entrance exam. So what is the entrance exam all about? It's a standardized test that's going to give us the understanding of whether you have the academic knowledge, the scientific knowledge, and the determination, which I think is the more important part, to study for this test that's different than anything you've ever done, and to score well on the exam. So it shows a commitment and it shows a level of expertise that will help us to know, yes, you have what it takes to succeed in our program. So there are 18 questions on biology, 12 questions on chemistry, 8 questions on physics and math, 2 questions on general knowledge, but the ones you really want to be careful on are these 20 questions on psychoattitudinal subjects, which is really just a crazy way of saying kind of logic-based reasoning problems. But yeah, I've been looking at these questions and they're very difficult. So I think that these are the things you want to focus on most of the time. If you're interested in studying medicine, usually you have a good background in your biology, chemistry, physics, and math. But if you don't, that's fine too, because you can study now. We're not going to ask you for minimum scores on your high school transcript. We're not necessarily going to be looking at that. So don't think that you can't succeed. Like I said, I think it has to do with determination and commitment, and you need to study hard now. So you'll have 65 minutes to complete the test. And like I said before, it's not the IMAT, it's our own entrance exam. We don't accept the IMAT for admission. So just keep that in mind, because if you are going to prepare for the IMAT, we're very happy to tell you that you won't have to conflict. You can prepare for our exam first. You're going to get the results of our exam long before the IMAT even takes place. So if you are ready to apply, then I would suggest that you go ahead and scan the QR code now. You can open the application right now, and then if you have weird questions, you could feel free to ask me, because that I am closing up the presentation. So if anything looks funky on there, you can let me know. But you can start the application and then come back to it. It's not something, like I said, it's very user-friendly and it's sort of a guide for you. So I say go ahead and try to open it. Go ahead and try to start applying right now, and see what kind of documents we ask for and prepare them so that eventually you can go through. You pay 150 euro in order, 160 euro for the application fee, and then that gives you access to the simulator, and eventually you will get access to the entrance exam once our admissions office confirms your eligibility to enroll. So they will check your background, they will ask you questions if they think anything is missing. You can ask them questions if you want to, so you can always write to me, or you can write to the admissions office if you have some sort of questions about your specific academic background. But if you want to get in touch with our team, here is our contact information, and you can check our Instagram pages if you want to. But really the best way to get in touch with us is via email. So you can always ask us any questions that you want. And like I said, we will help you all along the way through the application process to orientation, and then hopefully you will be able to succeed as a medical student. So I'm going to see if I can stop the screen sharing now, and open the floor for a few questions, because I think I went a little bit long here. So hopefully we have some time for questions.
Perfect. Okay, we have lots of questions.
I heard a lot of them coming through.
I don't know if we'll be able to address them all, but we will try. So, perfect. So the first question that I have here is about the scholarships. Does the scholarships, they have to do them in a separate application, or is it the same application as the admission process, or how does that work?
So the scholarship is something very different for us. Just in case anyone's thinking of applying to some other programs at Università Cattolica, for all of the programs except medicine, you can actually ask for a scholarship on your application as well. But for the medical program, because that it is a public competition and it is managed based on the regulations from the Ministry of Education, the only scholarships that we can offer are the regional-based scholarships offered in Italy. So that's not managed by the university at all. We have this dedicated office called Educat that does help students through those processes. So if you really want to know about them, you can write to our office, or you can look up Educat's information on our website, and you can contact them. But that scholarship application, like I said, it's completely separate from our admissions process, and it takes place actually after we finish even the entrance exam. So usually they open in the late spring or even early summer, sometimes quite late. And then you will find out if you receive the scholarship sometimes in the fall, sometimes a little bit later than that. So this is why we usually tell students that it's great to apply for the scholarship after you've been accepted, but don't try not to count on the idea that you might get one, just because it's so unpredictable, and it's also the timing is not great. So you will need to show that you're capable of paying your tuition fees for the visa as well. So the scholarships are, unfortunately for Cattolica, is not something that we really can promote in such a great way, just because we feel it's our obligation to ensure that our students are well prepared and not disappointed if by some chance you don't get the scholarship. One other thing that my colleague always warns students about is that you might get the scholarship one year, and then maybe something changes and it doesn't happen the next year. So we've seen some situations that aren't that fun for the students. So we'd rather just tell you, like, this is the tuition fee and it is what it is. And then if you can find outside funding someplace else, maybe back home, that might be more reliable than the regional ones that we can share with you. So hopefully if you do get a regional scholarship, it will just be an extra benefit for you.
Perfect. I'm going to resume that in Spanish just so it can be super clear for them. Ok, chicos, sobre las becas. Las becas son un proceso aparte del examen de admisión y de hecho son fechas diferentes. Entonces, lo que nos comenta Elizabeth es, está bien aplicar a las becas, obviamente, las becas las del Ministerio de Educación en Italia, pero no se confíen en tener la beca. O sea, si la tienen, pues es algo extra, pero no cuenten con ello desde el principio porque las fechas son un poco desfasadas. Entonces, pues nada, también nos recomienda, y esto es algo muy interesante que podrían checar, cada país tiene becas, el gobierno, para estudiantes internacionales. O sea, sus países de origen les pueden dar becas para estudiar en el extranjero. Por ejemplo, en el caso de México tenemos becas como el Comecit, el Conacit, que esas becas las puedes traer desde un principio, pero ya tienes que hacer tu proceso aparte, pero existen. Así que investiguen muy bien porque esas son de mucha ayuda y a veces no sabemos. Entonces, ahí les paso un tip. Awesome. Now, for the language, they have to be fluent either or in English or Italian, right?
Yes. So the program I've just described is our English taught program. And so we will only ask you for English language fluency upon arrival. And then we will hope that you are going to be ready to learn Italian when you get here, because that obviously that will be very important for your future success. And I always warn students, you don't need to know Italian to arrive, but you need to be prepared to navigate in a community that speaks Italian. So just be ready to be in a place that you don't know the language. Of course, for Spanish speakers, it's easier. Very similar, honestly. It's quite easy to understand the Italian language or understand the Spanish language if you know one, but it's not easy for you to communicate what you want to say.
I agree. I agree. I'm going to translate this super fast as well. Chicos, para el programa de medicina tienen que saber ya sea inglés o italiano. No es necesario saber ambos, pero por un decir, si van a estudiar en inglés, obviamente tienen que aprender el italiano para el día a día, pero bueno, eso ya lo podrán aprender con calma y practicar allá. Y como nos comenta Elizabeth, el italiano generalmente es relativamente fácil para las personas que hablamos español porque es muy similar, son las mismas bases, entonces no es tan difícil aprenderlo y estando allá, bueno, con la práctica supongo que será muy rápido, pero sí es necesario saber alguno de los dos idiomas, porque sus clases serían ya sea en inglés o en italiano. Entonces, para que practiquen mucho sus idiomas.
And just to be clear, if you're interested in studying medicine specifically, because we do also have some courses in management and economics, healthcare management, for example, that are master programs on our Rome campus. But if you want to study medicine, then to access the Italian taught courses, you will probably need to hold an EU citizenship, which is why we promote heavily the English taught program to non-EU students, because that's where we have openings dedicated for non-EU citizens.
Super, thank you. Chicos, también hay que tener en cuenta que si quieren estudiar en italiano, van a tener que tener una residencia de la Unión Europea, porque generalmente pues así funciona. Por eso ellos promueven para los estudiantes internacionales los programas 100% en inglés y también cuentan con maestrías en administración del área de salud y esas cosas que también pueden checar en su página web, que ahorita les comparto en el chat antes de que otra cosa suceda. Perfect, Elizabeth. Thank you very much. I saw here lots of students who already started studying medicine in their home countries. Is it possible to switch to Cattolica?
Yes, so we do have some transfer opportunities. They usually open in the spring, but one criteria that we do ask is that you're coming from an English taught medical program. So we'll want to see that you're studying in English already. And I just did notice a couple of other little questions on the chat. For example, so you could also enroll in the first year of the program and then ask after enrollment for credit. We call it recognition of your previous studies. This is something that if you apply as a transfer student, we evaluate ahead of time and then tell you how much we will accept. So we'll say you will come into this part of the program, like third year with these courses completed. But this is something you can also do if you register as a first year student. But the only difference is it might not save you very much time. If you enroll as a first year student, you're still enrolling in the first year, so you might not be able to skip the timing portion of it, but you would have the possibility maybe to have less coursework to do.
Okay, perfect. Sí es posible revalidar estudios de medicina para cambiar de institución de la que ustedes están actualmente a Cattolica. El requerimiento es que su escuela enseñe en inglés. También lo que se puede hacer es que ustedes empiezan con Cattolica y ya que iniciaron su primer año, piden un reconocimiento de créditos, podría ser. Y aunque no les reduce el tiempo, porque van a empezar en primer año de cualquier manera, sí reduce la carga de materias en caso de que sean compatibles. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Do you have any age limitations for the programs?
Not that I know of. I have always wondered if there will. We've had some mature students come through. Now
That's great.
we do need to give some specifics that usually I don't think you could come before 17 years old. However, it would be difficult for the students to have achieved 12 years of schooling. So if for some reason there is someone who is under 17, I always say it's best to write to us to ask about it because it's a case that I'm not 100% sure of. But if you are 17 years old, then there are some extra things that we have to do in order for you to get your student visa approved, because that people are considered a minor as 17. So there are extra considerations to make if you are younger than 18. But we have students who come from, especially like Eastern European, usually sometimes in Russia, they finish school quite early. So we do have students who are 17 come. So you can do it, but there's just got to keep in mind that you need a legal guardian. We take them through the process if that's necessary.
Okay, thank you very much. No hay como tal un límite de edad. Lo que sí es importante es tener en cuenta que se necesitan los 12 años de estudio previos y que normalmente se tienen cuando uno ya tiene 18 o más. Entonces, si eres menor de edad, es decir, tienes 17 años, no hay problema mientras tengas los 12 años de estudios previos, pero sí se tienen que hacer ciertas cosas adicionales porque serás considerado también allá como menor de edad. Pero aquí les acabo de dejar el mail en el chat. En caso de que tengan dudas así de específicas, pueden contactarse y poner su caso específico y pues va a ser algo mucho más personalizado y los van a poder ayudar mejor. I saw here also lots of questions about the visa. Mm-hmm. So, do they need the visa to apply? No. Or do they get the visa after they have been accepted?
That is a really good question, actually. And one of the things I was mentioning about the entrance exam being different from the IMAT is because we do everything in advance so that you will actually go to ask for your visa as an accepted student. So we don't send anyone to the embassy without an admissions letter. And this means that you go ask as the visa already with all the information, and we will take you through the process as well. I can even say that on this website here, if you go to the Cattolica International website, we have some information even on the post-admission section that shows you the visa process, how it works.
That's perfect. Ok, chicos, para la visa, no necesitan la visa para aplicar. De hecho, eso es lo que diferencia a Cattolica, el examen de admisión y todo es antes. Entonces, al momento en que ustedes van a solicitar su visa, ojo, es visa para Italia, no es para Estados Unidos, como vi en algunos comentarios, es visa para Italia. Cuando ustedes van a pedir su visa de estudiante, ustedes ya van a llevar su carta de admisión a Cattolica. Entonces, no es necesario que tramiten la visa antes y luego empezar el proceso de admisión. No. Primero se inicia el proceso y luego ya vamos por la visa. ¿Ok? Awesome. Thank you very much. De hecho, chicos, cualquier pregunta muy específica, por favor, envíenla por correo porque eso es mucho más fácil. Ok. Sophia here is asking, what happens if in my country we only have 11 years of studies before university?
I'm wondering where she's from. Is this like, I think Colombia sometimes? Maybe. This is something that I would suggest that what you want to do is to send a quick email about your specific case so that I can take a look at it with my admissions team. So I would say you can very easily send it to me at the international.inquiry@unicat.it, the email that's up here. Just let us know, where you studied and what kind of diploma you will receive, so that we can check in with our admissions office and check if it's okay or how you can move forward, because we have a specific staff dedicated to this. Obviously, I cannot be the expert on every single country's credentials, but one of my colleagues is. So this is what he does, and most of his work is dedicated to evaluating those criteria. So we will get an answer straight from him for people who have specific questions.
Awesome, thank you very much. Sofía, en tu caso puedes mandar un correo a international.inquire@unicat.it, está ahí en el chat, contándoles de tu situación específica, y a todos los que tengan esta situación también. Sé que en México a veces se puede hacer la prepa en 2 años. Entonces, en este caso ya Elizabeth no es experta en el tema, pero un miembro de su equipo sí lo es. Entonces, si les envían un correo con toda la información, pues ya podrán decirles qué procede en estos casos. And oh my God, we have a lot of questions in this. Okay, about the exam, I think this will be kind of the last question. Is the exam online?
So this is what's a little confusing. We would prefer to have the exam in person for everyone, but the COVID pandemic has made it really hard for us to manage. So this year they have split the exam in person for EU students and in online for non-EU. So I know that there may be some dual citizens in the audience, or there might be people who hold an EU passport and are living, somewhere else. If you have an EU citizenship, you know that we will ask you to take it in person, but we do have test centers all over the world. So we're not asking you to come back to the EU or back to Italy to take the test. However, you will have to take it in person. And then non-EU students will use the online proctoring. So you'll take it from home, or you need to be in a secure location with a good internet connection.
Okay, perfect. Sobre el examen, chicos, se divide en 2. Generalmente se hacía presencial, pero gracias al COVID, pues eso ya no es, ya no se puede. Entonces, lo que se hace es que los estudiantes que no son europeos lo hacen online, en la plataforma, en un lugar seguro, con una buena conexión de internet. Los estudiantes que tengan pasaporte europeo lo van a tener que hacer presencial. Sin embargo, tienen sedes en todo el mundo. Entonces ya nada más sería cosa de que ustedes revisen qué sede es para ustedes, pero sí tendría que ser presencial para los estudiantes con, pues, europeos. ¿Ok? Okay. So, any final tips for the students, Elizabeth?
I saw that some people were asking about the link, because I think they were saying that the QR code didn't work. So I'm just going to pop the link for the application right into the chat too. And my real, my big tip is just to study hard for the entrance exam. And I also like to tell people that I really hope that your first choice is Cattolica, because I'm very passionate about the education and the community there. And obviously, it's also my job to tell you to come to Cattolica. But I think it's a great opportunity for even a backup, or I know that you're going to look at many universities. Getting into a medical school is not easy. So one of the things that is nice and also confusing about our admissions process is that we have this graduatoria, this waiting list. So I tell people, try our test. If you can handle the €160 application fee, it's a really great place for you to at least get a chance, because we can't invite you to enroll if you don't apply and you don't take the test. But if you do pass the test, then at least you're on a list. So no matter what else happens, no matter where else life takes you, if you do pass the test or you score decently, you know, maybe you didn't get in the top 50 right away, but there is a possibility that we might actually call you. So it's an opportunity, and I think it's worth trying.
Totally. Yeah. Thank you very, very much, Elizabeth, for being here with us today and sharing with us all these amazing opportunities that Cattolica has for international students. And muchas gracias, chicos, por acompañarnos. Sabemos lo difícil que puede ser estudiar medicina y más en otro país, pero esperamos que esta oportunidad les haya gustado. Cattolica es una escuela increíble, entonces métanse a la página, chequen los rankings. Y pues nada, muchísimas gracias por acompañarnos. El video va a estar disponible en nuestro canal de YouTube a partir de mañana, por si quieren volver a revisarlo. Y a lo mejor algo no les quedó claro, tuvieron que salir rapidísimo. Bueno, ahí va a estar todo para que lo chequen las veces que quieran, lo compartan con quien ustedes crean que puede beneficiarse de esta información. Y pues nada, muchísimas gracias y nos vemos a la próxima. Thank you very much, Elizabeth. Have a great night.
Muchas gracias.
Bye bye.
Adiós.